Live, we connect the industry leaders in the architectural, engineering, and construction space with the people, the products, and the processes to help them build it better. All right, welcome everybody to Dave Cooper Live. A framer who owns their own lumberyard and loves panelized construction. Well, where do you find that? Well, you find it right here on Dave Cooper Live. Today's conversation with Chris Tatge, a master framer, lumberyard owner, and Wisconsin's largest turnkey framing contractor. He was the past president of the National Framers Council and an SBCA board member. Chris is going to share his approach to building it better, faster, and more efficiently with us today. What does the future look like for a traditional framer? Well, stick around and find out. But first, a few words from our supporting members. Stream Modular, the only logistics company you need to transport your mods, pods, and panels. Our friends at Stream Modular are investing $50 million over the next 25 years to build the technology, solutions, and trailers needed to handle and transport the projects of today and meet the demands of tomorrow. Reach out to their team at streammodular.com to discuss your next project. Combilift is the largest global manufacturer of multi-directional forklifts and straddle carriers, a leader in long load handling solutions, offering a free warehouse and site optimization design service. Combilift helps companies of all sizes and from every industry maximize the capacity, safety, and efficiency of their warehouse and storage facilities. A big thank you to Paul Short and the team at Combilift for helping us all to build it better. Visit them at combilift.com. Ready to scale up your offsite construction business? Introducing FourA Constructs, your solution to finding skilled labor for offsite manufacturing. Say goodbye to the headache of recruiting a skilled workforce with hand-selected certified tradesmen that are expertly trained and managed for offsite manufacturing, set crews, and finish crews, ensuring maximum productivity and safety. Unlock the future of skilled workforce development for all of your offsite construction needs. Visit them at FourAConstructs.com. All right, again, a big shout out to all of our supporting members. We cannot bring you all of these informative conversations without them. And a big shout out to Cobalt Creed, their high velocity low duct system. You got to check them out. If you're not familiar with Cobalt Creed, you better check them out today. Shawn Intagliata is waiting to hear from you. All right, enough about that. Let's get into this conversation with Chris. Chris, welcome to the Dave Cooper Live Show. How are you, my friend?
Hi, Dave. I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. let's just hop into it, Chris. I don't think a whole lot of people know you, you know, in the offsite industrialized space around the world, but we do know you in the component industry in a big, big way. So this is going to be a fun conversation. And I think that there's a lot of framers out there that could learn a lot from what you're doing, because not only are you doing it, you have the lumber yard too. You're panelizing. You're one of the largest in Wisconsin, if not the largest. So lots of lessons learned here. So Chris, we want to know everything about you from the moment you were born to this very moment in time. Do not leave out any of the good stuff from the hospital, or we may have your family member on the show, and it'll get embarrassing, but you only have 2 minutes to do it. Give us your elevator pitch, Chris. How'd you get into this?
Boy, started out as a framer right out of high school. Didn't do well in a traditional learning environment, and started building houses, stick framing. And I was good at it, and I was really good at it. And it gave me a lot of confidence. By the time I was 20 years old, I had a contract to frame 26 houses and 3 employees. Sort of fast forward 20 years later, I thought I'd reached the peak of my success. I'm a labor-only framing contractor in Wisconsin, building 60,000 square foot multifamily buildings with 15, 20 employees and keeping the money that's left over afterwards, right? I'm wearing a tool belt every day. I met some framers from the mid-Atlantic, and this is around 2014. And these guys were professionals. They were businessmen. They were framers, but they were also had successful businesses, office staff. And the big differentiator was they bought and sold their own lumber packages. So I got more involved with the Framers Council, sort of started learning from them, took on some mentors, Kenny Shiflett, George Hull down in Texas, Scott Stevens, Bruce Jones, all spent a lot of time teaching me sort of the ropes of how to run a turnkey framing operation. Sold my first lumber package in 2018. But you know, that was rough, but there was learning. Between 2019 and 2023, we grew 1,126%. Last year, we were named 539th fastest growing company in America by Inc. magazine. We're the largest framing contractor in Wisconsin. We're the fastest growing lumber materials supplier in Wisconsin.
Get out of here. So how much did you grow? Say that number one more time.
1,126%. Yeah.
Are you doing that year after year now?
2019 to 2022. We're continuing to grow and scoop up market share. We're pushing a little bit. We're in Madison, Wisconsin, South Central. Right. Pushing out into Milwaukee a little bit. We've picked up a few jobs. You know, we're big on delivering quality, doing what we say we're going to do. And so that's really the throttle for us on growth. As long as we continue to think we can fulfill what we say, do what we say we're going to do, we're going to continue growing. Yep.
So you started out as a traditional framer. Were you a traditional framer and then started framing with panelized? Walk me through the process of where you are today, because it's mostly panelized construction.
Yeah.
Framing for your partners.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the first time, and this is a lot of framers can relate to this experience. The first time I did panelized house, it was a house. I got this set print. I was told what time the walls were showing up, and that was about it. I didn't get a lot of information. I didn't get any coaching, and I did not like it at all. And I think there's a mistake that happens when you sort of try to put a stick-built framing contractor on a panelized project.
Right.
I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that wall panels are just stick framing made easier for the installer, and it's not. You got to think of it as a different skill set. Every carpenter lives and dies by the tricks they know.
That's right.
I know how to save just a little bit of fraction of time when I'm cutting roof sheeting for a hip, right? That's a great, if I know a trick. How do you close a joint on 2 wall panels that are sitting on a floor that's out of level? If the gap in the bottom plate is the gap in the plates is at the bottom, right? A stick framer is going to grab a sledgehammer and start wailing on the bottom plate on the other side of the wall, trying to close it up. A panel framer is going to pick those walls up at the center, close the gap at the bottom plate, nail the outsides of the plate, and pound the walls down. Everything's going to come in tight and well together, and he's going to move on to the next thing. So my first experience with panels was not positive. And I'll tell you what got me bought in, and this is the way that buy-in happens in my sort of more traditional side, is there was a company that started using wall panels, and I started losing bids to those guys. They started scooping up work, and I started losing work, and I thought, this stick framing thing is not going well for me and my business. I got to figure out how to do this stuff the right way. And so that was the buy-in for me. It was, I don't want to lose. I want to keep winning. Yeah. I'm going to learn this stuff so that I can compete with the guy down the road.
So, I mean, that's a big issue in our industry with, panelized or component manufacturing and building, right? Is the lack of training. And I hear it all the time, stick framers, they try panel for the first time. It's a nightmare. Nothing came together straight, not realizing that they got to be a little more careful when they're framing their floors out, because of the accuracy. There's all these different little nuances that one needs to learn. And I wouldn't have known to do what you just said by toenailing the ends and then pounding down the center. Yep. Like, these are all tricks of the trade. Absolutely.
And it's, for the traditional stick frame guy, especially when you're talking about houses, most of the framers across the country are these guys who we're a little bit proud. We've got our own company. I'm the president of my company, and I've got my 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 10 guys, whatever. Right. But I found my way to my own success. And the way that framers find success is it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of messing up, and it's a lot of learning from that, right? And so anything new equals risk. And these guys don't like risk. Why don't they like risk? It's, I've got a big business and an established company. If I want to try something new and it goes wrong, I lose some money, and the numbers in my bank account change, right? These guys, when you've got 3 employees and you're pounding out houses week after week, and you try something new and it doesn't go well, that just means I don't have any money in my personal checking account at the end of that week, right? I mean, there's a real cost associated with that. And so making sure that you bring these guys along in a new system and make sure they understand sort of every part and piece of it. When you're talking about single family, you talk about the first thing they'll bring up is the crane, who's going to pay for the crane? That's because that crane, that $250 an hour, whatever it costs, that's directly coming out of their bottom line, and their bottom line is what gets put in their personal bank account at the end of the day. So being able to coach through that is incredibly important if you want to onboard framing contractors for something new.
Can they still do their markup like they do if they were supplying the lumber for a regular stick frame job? Is it the same process, or is it different?
Yeah, it depends on the market. We're in Wisconsin. It's a 2-step market. So if you're buying walls from a component manufacturer, there's room to mark that up. Yeah. But it's very regional, right? I'll tell you what. There's a lot of component manufacturers who, and I'm the framer representative on the board for the Structural Building Components Association. Mm-hmm. Every quarterly meeting, I talk to a different component manufacturer, 3, 4, 5 different component manufacturers who say, I really want to get a framer on my team, right? If you're a professional and you want to find some way to get margin, buying and selling someone else's walls and products, and you go to the table, those people will trip over themselves for the opportunity to mark their stuff down so that you can mark their stuff out. Yeah. I guarantee it.
There you go. Trick of the trade.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe I should go out and start doing that. I'm traveling all over. I could have a side business selling
There you
panels, right? Selling a panel company. We'll talk about that afterwards, Chris.
Yep.
I only want 50% margins. It's good.
There you go. No problem.
All right, so Chris, let's get into it. So, you started off as a regular stick framer, and now, as the market changed, you started moving into panelized, so you weren't losing business, and we're starting to get beat up at that because trusses and wall panels have become the norm in a lot of different states. Talk to me about where you're at today and how owning your own lumberyard maybe has impacted your ability to streamline operations. As a turnkey framing contractor, it had to have a big impact.
Absolutely. Everything we do is geared for success in the field. So the speed of delivery, the communication, the value engineering that happens on the front end, right? So owning my own lumberyard, I've got a unique value proposition that I can offer to developers and general contractors, especially today when a project needs some pencil for it to go. And it's hard to make that happen. It's harder and harder. So you need to be able to find a way to swap products to save money. You need to find a way to streamline labor to save money. Being a framing contractor and owning my own lumberyard, I can speak to both sides of that. I can take a print and I can look at the orientation of the floor trusses, and I know how much more it's going to cost to turn those floor trusses 90 degrees on the wood side, and I know how much more labor or less labor it's going to take. So to be able to speak to both sides of that in pre-construction, doing value engineering is incredibly helpful, right?
Yeah.
The other sort of part of that, and I started out by saying everything we do, the goal is to make sure the on-site labor is successful, right? So what are we doing off-site and pre-construction? If there's a product that costs more money but will save time on site, I spend the money and I do it, right? Whereas where you have if you have a disjointed system where there's a lumber salesman who's taking a print, doing a great job, doing a great takeoff and sending that material out, he's going to bid it per plan. He's going to send everything out per plan. He's not thinking about the success of the guy in the field. He's doing his job and he's doing a great job, but if one hanger is going to take an hour to install and the other one's going to take 30 minutes, cost $20 more, we're sending that hanger every time. So sort of the products, the methods, and being able to influence design from the developer and architectural, the design stage, to make our guys successful helps. The other part is having materials on hand immediately. If the guys are short, we send out what they need. So prompt delivery is incredibly important to us. It's all about getting the guys what they need quickly. Our sort of sell to the market is 1 week for walls, 1 week for floor, no matter what the footprint is. You get a 10,000 square foot footprint or a 40,000 square foot footprint. How long is it going to take to build my 4-story building? It's going to take 8 weeks, no matter what. Sort of that consistency and setting that expectation for our labor, our workflow, and with our general contractor customers helps streamline the entire system.
So with your lumber yard, and then I want to get into the streamline process and how panelization or offsite construction helps you deliver better products, because it sounds like it is. Mm-hmm. Can I come to your lumber yard and work on a set of plans and design a panelized system, or is your lumber yard strictly the extra supplies you need to make the panels and the floors work?
Sure. It's we carry all the SKUs that we need to build the building, all the loose material that we sell on our projects. All of our design, we partner with Automated Products in Marshfield, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. So all of our design is happening with them, with their designers, and that's a very close relationship. So I'm on the phone. If I'm project managing a job, I'm on the phone with my designers, making decisions all the time. So, so from the design standpoint, that's an experienced designer that we partner with.
So tell me about the panels themselves, and how you're doing this now. What is the value, that industrialized construction is giving you, and really even more so your clients in the end result? Is it speed to market? Is it quality? Is it, cost certainty? What is it?
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces. Quality is a big thing. The way that buildings are built now, I have to take a 180 page print, and I've got to reference 5 or 6 pages just to lay out one wall, sort of the traditional way, right? So am I standing in front of a pair of sawhorses in the middle of winter, trying to figure out what the stud spacing is on the first floor wall, and am I using the right species? So being able to start thinking early about these buildings and how we're going to build them, weeks and months early, really helps work out all the potential kinks and problems. Asking for my window shop drawings 3 months before we start. And if you're a stick framer, you've definitely experienced that situation where I'm starting tomorrow, I need my window shops. Well, that's not organized and that's not fast. So panelized wall panels really pushes everybody on the team to get their act together early. Mm-hmm. If there's RFIs, extra information needed, you have to get all those answers taken care of before you can build anything. And it pushes the schedule, creates a buffer to get the information you need, but it also demands it. Once the walls are on site, there's a consistency that lends itself to speed for sure. We've got a certain way that we like our walls delivered: exterior walls bundled, corridor walls bundled, demising walls, and then interior walls bundled by unit. Our guys are used to that. So whether they're building a 30,000 square foot, 30 unit building, or a 357,000 square foot Texas wrap with a few legs coming off of it, they know what they're going to get every single time. Exterior walls are going to come here. When that consistency comes, the speed follows, right? So the guys can worry about producing and building and going as fast as possible and not saying, hey, what's this doing here? What's that doing there? They're used to a certain system, and it's just rinse and repeat for us.
Right. It makes a whole lot of sense too. What about floor cassettes? Are you starting to see more floor cassettes come into your builds, or are you guys not seeing that just yet? Because isn't that going to give you a better chance of being really square and level the whole way around?
Yeah.
If the mason gets the concrete right? That's the big question, right? I always say this: the master masons. Well, if you're a master, let's be square and level.
So with floor cassettes for us, our CM is about 2.5 hours away from us, and logistics wise, it's tough to make that work, and it's tough to be competitive. I know guys who use floor cassettes very consistently, very, very successfully.
Yeah.
One thing to remember, sort of, I'm interested in floor cassettes. I'm interested in finding a way to make floor cassettes work, because if you talk to people who have bought into it, I mean, they're fully bought in. And that's sort of one thing I always remember is if you ask a framer what's the fastest way to build an exterior wall, right? Some guy's what I would tell you is nail the bottom plate down to the subfloor, load all your king studs, nail your headers to the top plate, flip that top plate down. I'll give you a whole order of operations, right? And if you talk to 30 different framers, you get 30 different means and methods of doing it. And they'll all say that's the fastest way to build an exterior wall. What they're all really saying is, what's the fastest way to build an exterior wall? It's the way I learned, right? That's kind of that's a little bit of a problem. And so I'm interested in moving into floor cassettes and sort of retraining our guys on how to do that. We're pre-constructing our corridor floors right now offsite and bringing those and craning them into place. And so it's a nice little half step to what we're doing to get there.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of seeing that assembly approach start to happen, right? There are certain things that you could do offsite to make it easier on-site when you're, having the framing. So it'll be interesting to see how that moves forward and grows for you.
Yeah.
I mean, with the percentages you're growing, you got to move pretty quick to make all this stuff happen.
We do.
Right?
We do.
Yeah. So let's talk about the technology that you're using to do your wall panel. You got the end client or the developer, you got the wall panel supplier. What do you got? How are you communicating with them? Is it through CAD files? Is it digital? How's the quality control, working? And then again, how do the guys know or girls know on site, what walls to pick first? Is it QR code? Is it digitally scanned?
Yeah.
There's so many questions here.
Yeah. Through the design process, the VE process, that's all done in partnership with my component manufacturer. So it's very easy for them to we'll take a print, I'll send it over to them, they'll do their estimate, and then it's very easy for them to click a few buttons and answer questions like, what if we turn the floor trusses this way? What if we change these to bearing walls? Through the software they use, they can answer those questions in an hour or two, right? And so that's just a lot of back and forth via email. Once we've sort of gone through pre-construction, the design process, there's transfer CAD files from the architect to the designers who put everything into, we design on MyTech structure, put everything into MyTech Sapphire structure. And I think I'm getting that right. All my CM friends will criticize, but they're designing in that software, and then sort of multiple iterations. Eventually, my guys are getting bundle placement plans. So they're going to get a paper copy of where everything goes. Now, there's interesting opportunities there tied in with some other technology that we use. For laying out our walls, we use a system called the Botmark system. Botmark utilizes a total station to mark points. It's an interesting story, and I'm obviously biased, right? And I've always said, to be a good framer, you've got to know a little bit about everybody who touches your trade. So I think framers are in a unique position to really push the envelope and do things right. So it's two framers from South Dakota who bought a total station, Dean and Arnell Onchuk, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. They weren't happy with how long it took to mark points using a total station. They developed a software that takes a MyTech Sapphire file and converts it to a points file for a total station. And so you can walk around with a slide ruler and that's sort of the receiver side of the total station, and mark out 12,000 points in a day. What's that? What's that?
Is this the Botmark that you're saying?
This is the Botmark. This is their new digital ruler. So this is neat. So you get your total station set up and your files imported, and then this digital ruler is gonna, as you set it on the floor, it makes these lines that you just mark. That's where your wall goes. And I personally think that system's found a lot of success because it was developed by framers. They think like framers. They're going to solve for framers. And so couple of really great things about it. We're laying out our walls off of the component manufacturer's design, not off the architectural prints, right? And so our marks are matching the products that are being delivered to our job site. Other cool thing about that system is you can import anything into that file. So wall bundle placement, if I want to dictate through that software where my bundles are placed on the job site, I can put a point in that software and spray paint right on the floor. Bundle 52 goes here. Hold down anchors. I can import hold down anchors. So if I've got cast in place bolts that need to find their way into the right spot, I can import that into my botmark file. I can mark it out in space. Concrete gets poured, and my hold down lines up perfectly with the wall that comes out. So there's a lot of really interesting things you can do with that software.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a place that we're moving to, right? Having some digital tools like this that can help us on job sites and all that. What do you think the biggest hurdle is for our industry moving forward? I mean, you're part of the framers, you're a big proponent of the Framers Council and SBCA and as past, president members. What do you see as the biggest challenge in our industry moving forward today? And it doesn't just have to be with framers; it could just be in general.
Sure.
Give us the Chris thoughts.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm a business owner, and being a business owner is tough. And I don't.
Yeah.
Some nights I don't sleep well. And I think that as a tendency, we have a tendency to sort of once people find their way to success in construction, we become complacent, and guys are happy to bring in a check and be profitable and just have the success and slow down on pushing the envelope. So I think as an industry in general, why did I move to wall panels? Because I got tired of losing.
Right.
I wanted, so I was losing market share and I was losing jobs. So I think there's a lot of forward thinkers out there. And I think there's a lot of people who want to innovate and a lot of people who want more affordable housing for people. But I think that's the minority. And I think the crowd needs to be drug kicking and screaming a little bit through, it's, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, I've had to push and I've had to learn, and people on my team have had to push and learn and do things that are uncomfortable. And because we're doing that, everyone who's been losing market share to us is willing to sort of also do that. Right. So, it's, as long as the innovators are leading and winning, I think the crowd's gonna have to follow.
Yeah. Well, and that's it, right? When you get the old school framers in there, right? They don't like change. They're happy with going to work, eating lunch at this time, and going home at this time. But they're getting their work in. Yeah. You get the younger people in, and I said this off screen. When does the student become the teacher? Because the student's like, all right, well, we're not doing that this way anymore. I got this digital mark out tool. I don't need your ruler. Right.
Well, and what's my attitude then at that point? When I've sort of become the teacher and I have these opportunities to say, here's how I'm doing these things. Right. What's my attitude? I've been very open about what I do and the tools that I use to sort of succeed. And to a point where I'm open with my competitors. We just had our BCMC conference in Milwaukee. It's an hour and a half drive from me a month ago. And some of my competitors came into the room and they got to hear the layout. Here's what I'm doing. Here's how I've been successful. So if I really care about innovation, I'm not going to circle the wagons and protect that information. I'm going to have a positive attitude and be willing to share and willing to teach. That's just as important as getting those old guys to try out new things.
Well, it is, but then also you get so busy, you need partners. You need to say, hey, I don't have the capacity for this, but these are good clients. Yep. Let's work together and see what we can do. Right. So, yep. I mean, that's really the value there. And if they understand your system,
yep.
Now you just become bigger and badder than you already are in Wisconsin. Yeah. Maybe you'll be at the state next to you and down below you. And right. That's kind of how this stuff works.
Yeah.
Chris, you said, and we're going to have two more questions. The last one, second to last, labor. Yeah. You said you are not having a hard time finding labor. That
Nope.
just boggles my mind. That goes against what everybody else in the industry says. So please enlighten us.
We've got a lot of we've got employees, and we use subcontractors, and the subcontractors work really well for flexing up and flexing down when you're busy and when you're slow. And we really we I don't want to sound too much. It's, when I say this, it's genuine. We treat our subcontractors the same way we treat our general contractor customers. They're all customers to us. If I'm paying you X to frame a building, or I'm paying you Y to build 30 sets of stairs, I want to make sure you're successful, and I need those subs to be profitable, right? So there's a few things we do. We pay quickly. We pay weekly. We turn around invoices fast. It's hard enough owning a small business, and we make sure these guys have the cash flow that they need to be successful. If there's a gray area, we go into our pocket. If there's something that wasn't clarified in the scope, and these guys don't think that whatever terms worked out as fair, we usually end up going into our pocket and taking care of them. We've got a first and second generation Latino workforce up here. Those guys absolutely remember who they can trust, who takes care of them, who treats them well, and who wants them to be successful. So because of that, we haven't had a problem with labor at all. We're the first ones these guys call if they're slow.
I love it. So what advice would you give somebody that's an aspiring framer or a young framer?
Yeah.
How would you tell them to get started going to the next step? Even with panelized. How do you start getting those projects if you're just a traditional framer?
Yeah.
Do you go to the panel company and say, hey, I want trained on your product, and I work with how do they do it?
You should call me, because I'll give you as much time as you want. I've had success because a lot of older guys gave me as much time as I wanted and needed to find success. But understanding your market and your market dynamics. So are you in a two-step market where a component manufacturer sells to a lumberyard who sells to a general contractor? Does your local lumberyard do installed sales? If that's the case, then talking with those guys and the general managers at those locations. If your CM is in a direct to market spot, talking with those component manufacturers about how to learn how to do installs. They probably have jobs that you can go see and talk to framers who are already working with panels. Are you in a market where like Texas, where lumber gets to job sites in a million different ways? There's a million different ways to find an in. And so talking to somebody who understands the market dynamics is going to be very helpful. The Structural Building Components Association has a number of resources. You email or call them and want to know who the component manufacturers are in your region, and who the good guys are and who the guys you want to avoid. Those conversations are incredibly easy to have.
Yeah, they definitely are. There is a lot of resources out there, and we need more people like you, Chris, willing to give your time and experience to get it to the next level, because it's not easy.
No.
Where do you see the future of framers? Is it going towards panels and modular? Everything going to start going that way eventually?
Yeah, I think so. I think for framers, the most successful framers are the ones who control their products and own the material side. And so as more framers figure that out, the same way that I figured that out, you're going to see more framers wanting to own that piece, the material supply side, right? I think as carpenters are more and more familiar with panelized wall systems, and it becomes the norm and not the exception in different markets, I think you're going to find individuals who are more willing to start pushing the envelope with that and say, hey, can we start designing in some mechanicals? Maybe let's start drilling some holes. I think it's a long process. I think it's a 10 and 20-year process. But I honestly believe sort of the guys who are willing to push the envelope and take the next small incremental step are the ones who are going to start being more successful than the guys who are not willing to. And same with component manufacturers. If a component manufacturer figures out a way to rough in plumbing into his walls, and that's just a great value add, then that works into the market dynamics. So a lot of small, tiny incremental movements, learning from sort of the guys who are full modular offsite and all that. Let's all learn from each other and find ways to do all of this stuff better.
Yeah, listen, 100%. Even the modular guys, they're panel builders as well.
Yeah.
They build jigs and they build panels in their shop and do it. And
Yep.
I think you're right. I think the future of construction, even on the panel side, I don't think modular is the answer to everything, but panels can be used pretty much everywhere.
Yep.
But getting the MEPs installed in a panel system or even prepped, let's just say even just having the holes and prep.
Yep.
The digital twin allows us to do all of this today, but there is a cost associated to it. So as you grow, you figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
What did I miss, Chris? Did I miss anything? Framers Council? Go ahead, plug it. I know you love it.
Framers Council, if you're a framing contractor and you want to grow your business and be around a lot of really successful framers, get involved. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm active on LinkedIn. We've got an annual golf outing on the East Coast, and we've got our annual Framer Summits, different part of the country every year. So get in contact with me, and I can tell you more about the organization. So that's a big thing for me.
I love it. So there you have it. Chris, thank you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure. And when I get to see you and I see you speak at BCMC and elsewhere, but it's even more exciting when you can come on the show and educate, people out there that think they know your industry because we've been in it for so long. There's always that, but there are so many framers that are still trying to figure this out. You're a good resource for them, and you're a good resource for the association. So thanks.
Thanks for giving me a voice, Dave.
Absolutely. Heck, I'm going to be at Steel Horizons this week. I got to go to Philadelphia for Mass Timber, and then I'm going to Steel Horizons that same night to do a presentation down there in Tampa, Florida. So we're going to be talking about panelization everywhere.
Absolutely.
That's what we do.
Good
Chris,
stuff.
Don't go anywhere. I'll come back to you after the show. But for everybody else, guess what? It is Monday. You got 4.5 days to keep building it better. So don't give up. Let's get to it. Let's get busy. I'm on the East Coast. So if you're on the West Coast, your day is just beginning. My day is coming to an end soon. But do we really ever end? Let's keep building it better. Let's keep talking to people like Chris. And please reach out to Chris if you have any questions out there. He'll be more than happy to answer it. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching. What an amazing show. Thank you to all of our sponsors for helping us to continue to bring all of these innovative conversations to all of you out there. Please visit them, see what they have to offer you. And as always, subscribe to the YouTube channel and ring that bell. It would mean the world to us. I'm Dave Cooper. Thanks for watching.